This is where I got to disagree with you a little bit on Jim. Jim has only killed one zombie.
Okay.
A kid zombie.
Yes.
And now he's like freaking Rambo out there. He's like plotting, like
getting soldier
takedown of
he's
these
Batman.
7 army dudes. Yeah, pretty much. And he's like
he's lurking in the shadows
in a highly efficient way in a place that he doesn't know. Like he's never been to this place before.
I think what you were forgetting is that Jim, before his coma, was a bicycle courier. I feel like you're not taking that into account, that he was.
I forgot his background.
Hey everybody, welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. What's up, everybody?
Yeah, what's up? Here at the Blood and Donuts podcast, we start by sharing an overview, facts, and our first impressions. Then Chris and I will give our donut rating, and then we will go to a scene-by-scene discussion full of spoilers. But don't you worry, kids. We'll let you know before we do that. Chris, how does our donut rating work?
So we rate our movies on a scale of 1 through 13 donuts. A 1 through 4 is terrible. We're not going to recommend that one to you. A 5 through 8, that's kind of like a mid-range. It's worth a watch if you have time. It's not terrible, but it's not great. A 9 through 12 is great. You'll definitely want to check out that, even if you need to rent it. And 13, Tony, that's a baker's dozen tier. That's pretty rare, but we would consider that a perfect horror film, and maybe even discussion in best of all time.
28 Days Later. It's a 2002 British post-apocalyptic horror film directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. Stars Cillian Murphy as a bicycle courier who awakes from a coma to discover the accidental release of a highly contagious, aggression-inducing virus that has caused the breakdown of society.
Man, and it would happen that fast, wouldn't it? Just probably a couple weeks.
Oh, it wouldn't take long, would it?
Just goes to crap. Yeah.
Yeah, before he was Scarecrow from the Nolan franchise, before he was Oppenheimer, he was just Jim from 28 Days Later, Cillian Murphy.
Dude, even the guy who played Frank was not a known actor.
Yeah.
And then he was like Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter series.
Yes, there were so many people I didn't realize got their start in this film. You know, I guess they've gotten small roles and stuff, but this was kind of like their breakout movie. You know?
Yeah. This movie turned out to be really a popular one with the zombie franchises and stuff. But yeah, it was crazy to see. I mean, because you see all these characters now, all these actors now. I mean, they're just really well acclaimed and stuff. And it was like, hey, I remember them from 28 Days Later. Everybody
was like asking me, so what's y'all's next episode? I was like, 28 Days Later. They're like, is that the one with the fast zombies? That's what everybody thinks of when they think of this film. They invented the fast zombie, Chris. But are they zombies in the classical sense?
You know, I think so. If you get bitten or if you trade saliva or blood with one of these infected with the rage variant.
Yeah.
I think, or with the rage virus, I think that, and then you turn into one of them and then you just crave to do the same thing. It's not, I'm not sure what they crave. They just run around and smack people.
Right. We're typically we're used to the brains. Yeah. That was what, and they kind of slow walked and you would fall and you would look behind you and they're coming and stuff. But these this was like out of the darkness, man. And you know what I saw a lot on this rewatch? This movie's from 2002, which is crazy to me. I feel like it didn't. Yeah. I can't believe it's 23 years old. But did you see a lot of like Walking Dead in this movie?
I did, a little bit. I related a lot to video games too, because even in video games, like your zombies or whatever they are, they don't really go for just brains. They just try to eat you.
Yes,
like it doesn't have to be brains, doesn't have to be, but it's the same thing. But yeah, you're right. The Walking Dead, where did you get bit?
And there's he wakes up from a hospital scene there at the beginning too.
Yeah.
And just like kind of wakes up and everything's.
Yeah, you could definitely see. Of course, Walking Dead was a comic book first, but you could see a lot of comparisons to this movie. I feel like.
Well, it's funny that you said video games, because the director cited Resident Evil as a influence on this particular movie, which I thought was great.
And that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, I mean that's the one. that you go for, because even now they do different takes on. They're not just like zombies, but they're just different viruses that infect people that act a certain way or whatever. So,
dude, it like right after this film, there was like this zombie like movie increase. There was it went crazy. There was everybody went all in on zombies, and I felt like the market got a little saturated after this one. But this is one of those films that you might overlook it as like a catalyst for horror films. You know what I mean? You have those very few. We've talked about Scream and stuff for the 90s slasher and stuff like that. You really have to say 28 days later, soon to be 28 years later in June, they're going to come out with a third film. I'm sure everybody's been hearing about that. But 28 days later, you have to point to that and say, this kind of like started like it reinvented the zombie film, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it didn't oversaturate itself. It doesn't have 16, sequels like Scream did, or even Halloween was saturated before Scream came out. So this one really kind of started it, and then it just kind of left it alone for a little while. I want to say that 28 Weeks Later came out, years later, maybe a few years.
Yeah, I think it said 2007 was the sequel. So it did take 5 years to put out a sequel, and then here we are, 2025. It's been a while, but here comes a third installment. So this is definitely a franchise now, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the second one, to be honest with you.
You ought to be ashamed. I don't know if I have either.
I ought to be.
The scene of Jim walking through an empty London was partially inspired by 9/11 imagery, is what the director said. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because they were filming the day that they all met and were having a celebration drink when they heard the radio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was actually the 9/11. That was on that day.
Wow.
And he was like, the director said he felt like it was odd that they were celebrating on a day like that.
Interesting.
So they were recording that when that happened or whatever.
That's crazy. To clear central London for shooting, the crew would close down roads for only minutes at dawn, sometimes with the help of police, so they could get some of these shots.
That's great. And it said they went over a few hours. They slowed it down, blocked it off, shot it for a little bit, and then reopened it. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. But
I mean, wild how they did. I mean, that's no CGI. That's no fake scenery or anything. Yeah. That is real life London, like shut down.
Yeah, it looked.
Can you imagine if you worked down there? You'd be so pissed. I know I would be. Like if they shut down like Clarksville or Nashville or something.
When I worked downtown Nashville, they would film. A lot of times they would film like these country music videos. They would do it at night though, or like try to do it like 2:00 in the morning when But man, it would really throw things off when they would close streets down. Oh, it would really. I was pissed. I'll tell you that. Cillian Murphy, we said you really get your first dose of him. You really get to know him in the first moments that he's on the screen. You know what I mean, Chris?
Yeah, you really get to know all of them. It's funny. It says that he asked for the set to be closed. I'm like, why does that matter, bro? Like,
dude, millions of people have seen this, have seen your wiener at this point. And if you didn't get enough of his full frontal nudity from the beginning of this film, you can towards the end of the film you get to see his butt too. You know what I mean, in a shower. So you really get to know Cillian Murphy. If you haven't or you don't remember, and you revisit this. How about revisiting this is harder? I mean, we couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, it was crazy. Because I'm asking you, I'm like, can you not find it? Did you have to rent it or watch it? With our streaming deal that we do, but I was like, yeah, man, I can't find it for free anywhere.
I was reading, and maybe this is wrong, that because it was filmed with digital cameras, that the quality was kind of bad. It had it was very low budget and shot on digital cameras. You notice that graininess, and maybe that was a choice by the director. I think he said that was, but I think it's hard for these like Netflix and stuff to kind of, because you can't HD it. You can't 4K that. You can't make it look any better.
Right, and it did not age well, at least in the video quality. Maybe we'll say. Yeah, like I thought the story and stuff were still fine, but the quality of the video.
That's one of my big gripes.
Shot with iPhone back in 2002 or whatever.
That's what it looked like. That was one of my big gripes about this one, is just the video quality. Yeah. And some of the editing was a little
like they were trying to set up for like intriguing cinematic shots when it didn't really call for it, or it didn't really land. If that makes sense.
I agree.
It's showing them, it's like panning up from a pond and they're driving, and I'm like, why not just have them in the car, like talking about some backstory or something? I mean, come on.
Some of the shots were very like you said, London. I mean, that was very eerie. You felt like he was totally on his own by himself. But then they did a really good job of when the group was together. They had moments of like, we're going to be okay. And it would show like fields of flowers and stuff like that. I liked how they did that. I liked how it kind of, and even, you have the, now every zombie movie has to do it where you go into a grocery store and you buy all the things, you know what I mean? It's like kind of cliche at this point. It's kind of
it was fun.
It's a trope. Where you have to go during a zombie movie, you have to go into a grocery store and just everybody kind of dreams of that, going into a grocery store and picking out all the things that you want.
Supermarket sweep and just like knock stuff off the shelf.
Yeah, you don't even care. I like there was a funny joke with one of the guys who was like he says, no, you can't just buy just anything.
Can't just take any crap. Single malt, 16-year-old, dark, full flavor.
Because dude was looking at alcohol, and then he picked up a real expensive. He goes, you got to really go for quality, and I thought that was a cool little joke. There's some good dark humor moments in this movie, which kind of cut the tension a little bit. Even with the little girl there at the end, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, it's like you. Keep the warmth without the burn, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
the whiskey that he was buying.
Yes,
there's some of that, and you kind of need that, and it does show you that not everywhere is just a crap hole. It's like you have these untouched fields and things like that. There were horses running around, and it kind of helped the characters have a little bit more hope or whatever, because all they really have is this radio signal that they got, and they're going to try to find out what's up with it.
Yeah. Well, one of the harder things with zombie movies is you just have a group of people. Here come the zombies, and they just and you don't care or anything. This film gave you just enough backstory for most of the characters where you felt like you cared about them, and they didn't just dump it on you. I mean, Cillian Murphy, he visits his town, his mom and dad's house, which I thought was a nice addition. We'll talk more about that in the spoilers, but I mean, it just you didn't get just huge exposition dumps. I think it was done very nicely and cleverly.
Yeah, good pacing. It's a little long, I would say, for what it is. And like I said, some of those just weird cinematic shots could have been maybe removed to help the time, but whatever. The pacing was okay, I'll say. Yeah,
I was happy with it. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I read something pretty cool. The hospital that they filmed in was a real day hospital. It was only open during the week, but the trust managers of the hospital rented out the building to filmmakers on the weekend, so that they could, producers paid the hospital directly, and the money from the filming went directly to the hospital's trust fund. So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
It's like, I guess if you're sick on Friday afternoon, they're like, "Hey,
get
out of here."
You got to make. I mean, this is a low budget film, so you got to make money where you can. Did you notice some guilty product placement throughout this film too, with the Pepsi, and stuff like that? It was
brought to us by Pepsi.
Yeah. He was like picking up. He's just like, we got this, and we got Pepsi. I thought she was going to pick it up, and there's going to be a little bit of moisture roll down the can a little bit, But you got. I mean,
like, do you have any? He's like, I'll just take a Coke. He's like, will Pepsi work?
Would Pepsi? Would a cold, crisp, delicious Pepsi? Would that work for you? You got Naomi Harris in this. I thought her and Cillian Murphy meshed very well on screen. I thought they were
very good chemistry. Yeah.
I thought they were good. And the last thing I want to talk about is the third act and how, I feel like that's the one. I think the third act is the best part about this movie. And I feel like it kind of sets it apart. The director turns it on its head and puts you in the seat where you're like, get them. You're hoping the zombies, because it shows you that humans are so cruel too. They're just as bad as
the zombies aren't the only super scary thing out there. Because you kind of wonder what kind of cliques will form and things like that.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that when we get into the spoiler section about what you may do or what you might, do in those kind of situations. But yeah, so I can't remember how many times I've seen this movie, man, because it used to be one of the first few DVDs that I owned, right? Like,
Yeah.
So watching it for me was kind of like taking a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
I still think it holds up pretty well. Other films have done that take on the variant or fast zombie, but this was where they're all like fast and stuff is a whole new issue. And I think this was a time, it was like a fresh take on a zombie apocalypse when this came out. It used the lesser known actors at the time, which turned out to be brilliant actors for our generation. It's a little long, but it has a good story to tell. Like I said, we could have done without a few of those shots. I think I'm going to give 28 Days Later a 10 out of 13. I think it's a solid film that's worth a rent. Watch it with some friends. It has a few good jump scares, but it's a good time. It's a good, fun zombie film to watch with some buddies.
28 Days Later is a gripping, atmospheric horror film that redefined the zombie genre with its terrifyingly fast, infected, and bleak post-apocalyptic setting. I absolutely love the sense of isolation it creates. Empty streets of London are both eerie and beautiful. The infected are genuinely scary, especially when they emerge from the shadows with explosive violence. The film's use of digital video adds a grainy, raw texture that doesn't always hold up on the rewatch and looks a little, and the editing feels a little rough at times, which we talked about. The chemistry between the cast, particularly Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris, adds heart to the horror, and moments of dark humor work brilliantly to ease the relentless tension. But what truly makes this film stand out is that third act, which we talked about, when the line between human and monster blurs and we find ourselves cheering for the infected as they tear through the corrupt military compound. A bold, brutal, and brilliant piece of horror cinema. I give it an 11 out of 13, Chris, for
That's good.
28 Days Later.
Day.
Super surprised it's not streaming on something. You know what I mean? Especially when you got, here in a few months, you got the third installment that's dropping. People are wanting to see this. You would think Netflix would want, Hulu, somebody would want to kind of soak that up and make some money off that. But oh well.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are about to go into a scene-by-scene discussion that is just full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen 28 Days Later, go watch it, go rent it, and then join us on this conversation. Here come the spoilers. A group of animal rights activists infiltrate a laboratory in Cambridge which houses highly aggressive chimpanzees. Taking a scientist hostage, one activist frees a chimpanzee despite being warned by the scientist that it's infected with rage, a highly contagious virus. It attacks her, and within seconds of exposure, she succumbs to the virus. The scientists say that the infected activist must be killed quickly to prevent an epidemic, but is prevented from doing so by the confused activists, who are then attacked by the infected activist as the chimpanzee look on. The virus spreads rapidly across Great Britain, resulting in total societal collapse.
What are they infected with? He's like, rage. Oh, and it's pretty creepy.
Yes.
But yeah, it's weird. It's like a little, it shows a little break-in of the activists and stuff like that. And it just shows these chimpanzees just strapped to a table watching
crazy. All the horrible things of the world. Yeah.
Like pretty wild. And then, so it just goes to show you, don't be an activist or you're going to start a zombie outbreak, I think. Whatever. It makes sense. It has to start from somewhere. That's where most horror movies and zombie movies come from, is some kind of lab that, scientists are tinkering with stuff and experimenting, and then the experiment gets out on the loose or whatever and just causes society to collapse or whatever. So, it is what it is. Not really a new take on that, but it worked.
To me, I felt like it felt realistic. You know what I mean? Because if you think about like COVID and stuff like that, they don't know where, it came from a food market. Oh, it came from a Wuhan lab, where they, finally outbreak. There was lots of, talks around this. This is many years before that. It's chimpanzees. They're infecting it with this serum, this rage or whatever, and I just thought it was very eerie and crazy. And like you said, that monkey was strapped down to that table with all those horrible human images, and And I don't know if that was the rage or they're trying to enrage him or what was going on there.
I felt like.
But it was just the whole thing. The whole time since they walked in, you're like, get out of there. You know this is not going to end right. It looks like a bad idea from the get go.
I don't know. By the end of that scene, I kind of was rooting for the chimpanzees. Honestly, the activists seemed like just annoyingly stupid.
Yes.
Like, we don't care that you just told us not to unlock it, and then they just unlock it.
Oh, yeah. You have to kill her. You have to kill her. That's one thing that you'll find in this movie as it goes on. It's the
quick.
It's a quick turnaround for when they turn. But the humans that have been there for 28 days and they have seen their parents, they have seen their loved ones, their cousins, the people that they work with, the people in their neighborhood turn. They take no chances, and it's crazy to see. Like, as soon as they get infected, you could have been my best friend through this. You could have had my back through this whole situation. But as soon as you get infected, hit me with a bat as hard as possible right across the face. Another thing that I have noticed, but if this was an American film, everybody would have a gun. You know what I mean? Like, that's just that, but you don't see guns until you get to the military, but this being a very British film, everybody has like a bat, everybody, you know what I mean? Like anything but a gun is what they have.
Right. Yeah. Only the military have those rifles and stuff like that. That's a good point. I didn't notice that.
28 days later, bicycle courier Jim, who had a traffic accident and fell into a coma before the outbreak, awakens in St. Thomas Hospital in London to find it is deserted. Leaving the hospital, Jim wanders the empty streets of London, discovers newspapers headlining a mass evacuation, and eventually enters a church which contains the aftermath of a massacre. Infected living humans appear and give chase to Jim, but he is rescued by healthy survivors Selena and Mark, who take him to their refuge in a street side shop.
So I really enjoyed the church sequence where he's kind of at the end of his, he's walking around shouting hello, and then
hello. Sorry.
Hello.
Very British hello,
Very British hello.
Hello.
He's like, good day.
Good day. Good day. That's hilarious.
Top of the morning to anyone.
He hits an infected priest, and then he apologizes. It's a pretty cool, he's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
I should not have done that. It's the most polite head bashing I think we've ever seen. But I thought that sequence was really good. And then you can see, like, just like the opening, these zombies are very quick. And I was going to ask you too, like, what do you do in that situation? What would Tony do if he wakes up in the hospital naked after finding some pants? What does Tony do? I mean, it looks like he went through and he tried the phones. He looked for nurses. He looked through. You could just tell everything was abandoned.
I don't know if I have the survival that these people had. You know what I mean? You know how they really, really wanted to survive? They're like,
yeah.
I think this is horrible to sound like. I would probably take Jim's parents' route. Is what, you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. When I saw what they did, I was just like, probably the best. Because like, day by day, what else are you gonna see? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like each day is only gonna get worse than the day before.
What am I just gonna? Am I gonna smash some more people across the face who have been infected? Do I get, or like he had to at one point he has to smash a child in the face who's infected. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
his fault, but we'll get there.
Yeah, like, save me from that. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. You know what I mean? I don't have that fight, so I feel like I probably wouldn't make it.
I would probably just like try to turn on the TV, see if the cartoons are on, and just hope it blows over.
Yes.
Somebody will come get me in a little bit. There's probably enough food in the hospital to get by for a little bit. And
I don't think there was. I don't think there was. If you find some Ritz crackers or something, stuff that doesn't need refrigeration, yeah. That's true. And some alcohol and some Valium. I would try to find some type of drugs in that hospital to really take me out of this. So he was in a coma. Do you use the restroom in a coma? Like, no bedpans and stuff like that? I don't know.
I mean, you're probably hooked up to like a catheter of some sort. That
he didn't have a catheter. I saw his wiener. His whole.
Are we sure he didn't yank it out when the camera wasn't panned down there yet?
Dang.
I mean, I'm just.
What if they left that, like, he had to, like, and you heard it? And he was like, that's hilarious.
And gross.
Yeah, and disgusting. Funny. And disgusting. So you meet Selena and Mark. They seem like they have been here for this 28 days. They've been blasting and lasting, as Coolio would say. I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is. And here they are, and they seem like they're a couple, like they're a thing.
Yeah, they don't really dive into their background. It's just like they're just two wandering survivalists, and it's almost like Mark got really excited when he got to blow up that gas station. I mean, it was like really fun for him. So
you love that.
Like they were arsonists, and then they just like found each other, and it's like, oh
yeah,
let's survive together.
Jim it doesn't really come alive at very few. You don't see a lot. You don't see. He has the survival instincts of me. You know what I mean? I feel like he
koala bear.
Yeah, he kind of like he finally comes alive at the end, which is very surprising. But Mark seems like he's gonna make it. You know what I mean? If I had to put my money on one, I'd be like, Mark's gonna make it, dude. He's got this.
Yeah, for real.
At Jim's request, the group travel on foot to his parents' house in Deptford. There, he learns that they died by suicide, leaving a note in which they prayed that he did not wake up. As it's too dusky to return to their hideout, the group decide to stay the night. While the others are asleep, Jim lights a candle and reminisces over memories of his family. The infected, attracted by the light, break into the house. Mark is wounded as he fends them off before the infection can take hold of Mark. Selena immediately hacks him to death in front of a horrified Jim. Selena tells Jim that she will not hesitate to kill him in a heartbeat as well if she suspects that he's infected.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
I really hope Jim feels responsible for Mark's death, because that was definitely his fault. He like lit a candle or some kind of in memory of his parents or whatever he was doing.
Selena did not hold that against him though. She didn't. I would have talked about it the whole trip. Like I would have been like, kind of like lighting a candle and getting Mark killed. And I would say that I would remind him of that constantly through the whole movie. But she was very kind.
You guys remember when we had 3 people instead of just 2 of us? Oh, hi, Jim.
Do you want to light a candle?
Yeah, light a candle from Mark.
Do you want to reminisce? But I thought, like, I loved the scene of him going to his house and seeing his parents and they leaving a suicide note, and they're holding onto the picture of him as a little boy, and they're like,
please don't wake up.
Yeah, please don't wake up, because the earth sucks. The world sucks. You don't want to wake up to this.
That's pretty good.
But then he's over there being sad, and Mark and Selena are like, You're lucky they went like that. I had to like beat my mom I had to hack it to pieces with it.
Beat them to death with their own shoes.
I had to beat them to death with their own shoes.
I had to beat them to death with their own shoes. That's so funny. But Mark kind of gives you get to see Mark and what he's been through here, because he gives a little story, and it's just enough backstory. I love it how he talks about what he went through, and which kind of sets things in their place, where Jim's like kind of like, yeah, actually that is a good, this went well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, he feels more grateful, I think, after knowing what they went through, for sure.
Yeah. And do you think Mark would have been so nice if he knew that within a few minutes or hours that Jim was going to get Mark killed?
He might not have picked him up or saved him in such incredible fashion earlier.
That's another thing. Like Jim's kind of like a liability.
So far, yeah. So far, he definitely is. And again, the 180 he shows later, I got some problems with. We'll talk about it, but yeah.
So it's just Selena and Jim at this point.
Selena and Jim, yeah.
Spotting a makeshift.
It could have been 3 of them.
But Jim had to light a candle and reminisce about the good old days. Spotting a makeshift signal from afar, Jim and Selena make their way up to Balfron Tower. They encounter cab driver Frank and his young daughter Hannah in one of the flats. Frank shows them a military radio broadcast offering protection and a cure to the virus at a blockade outside of Manchester. With supplies dwindling, Frank plans to take Hannah to the blockade, and the four agree to travel together.
And from this point until his death, this movie really makes you love Frank.
Frank's the best.
I mean, they are just building up his like big lovable character the whole time. I mean, he's like the dude that you would want on your team. You know what I mean?
Frank is amazing.
Yeah, like if you got Frank with you, like it's all good because Frank's here.
Yeah,
like he's the muscle of the group. So he's definitely somebody you'd want to team up with. And it's funny. I liked how his water baskets had like they were just clothes hampers with big holes in them when he was trying to collect the water up on the rooftop.
Yes.
And apparently that would work if it was on grass, but he was up on the roof with asphalt, so that's why it wasn't working.
I did not know that.
I read that. Yeah, fun facts with Chris.
But another thing, it hadn't rained in 10 days, is what he said. So he's running out of water. Another thing is when the elevator is, you can't use the elevator, so they're having to go up many flights of stairs, and on the flights of stairs they meet some infected. You know, they stop to take a break. Of course, Jim is tired and he has a headache. I mean, come on.
Wait for me,
Selena. He is crying.
I'm like, dude, nobody's waiting for you. Like, she is gone and you are dead.
And then Frank comes out of nowhere with a big glass shield thingy, which he invented to like secure the floor, and Hannah won't let him in. And so you're just like, Frank knows what he's doing, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because they're just beating on the, like, let us in. They're like down the hall at this point.
Yeah. Like you're safe. Yeah.
But they're still shouting, let us in. But and then after Frank takes care of the business, he's like, let him in.
Yes. But you kind of see like, so you meet Hannah and Frank and they're living in this apartment. Mom is gone. Do they elaborate on that? I don't remember.
I think she did. She died, but it doesn't really go into it
So they're running out of water. Water's not working. He said, you can piss in this bucket over here and we'll just throw it over the porch in the morning or whatever he said. I don't know. And so they're just like, they're living day to day at this apartment, but they really need to leave. And Selena and Jim have this conversation, which Frank overhears, where he's like, no, they're going to be they're going to be a liability to bring them along.
They need us more than we need them.
That is what they say.
Yeah. And then he's like, I know that we need you more than you need us.
That's what Frank says. But then Frank goes, listen to this. And that radio with that military saying, there is hope. Listen, we have a cure to the virus. Please come to this area. And like, it's just a recording, but it's hope, and it's hope through the whole film. Yeah. And it's like, you know, whatever we do, we have to get to this place. And it's like the promised land. And it's
offering protection. And
it's great. It gives you something to hope for in the midst of all of this. Just there's nothing, you know what I mean? Like, it gives you hope and a future. And we'll find out that it wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but the group set out for Manchester in Frank's cab, looting a supermarket along the way and escaping ambushes when they stopped to change a tire and to refuel. When they find the blockade deserted except by crows, Frank, frustrated, kicks a tall gate on which a dead body is balanced. A drop of blood from the corpse falls into Frank's eye, infecting him. Realizing what is happening, Frank tells Hannah he loves her and pushes her away as he begins to succumb to the virus. Hidden soldiers appear in surrounding vantage points and shoot Frank dead. A lot to unpack there, and a lot that they kind of skipped over as well.
Yeah, they did. Because before they get there, you know, they stop off at some kind of, looks like some kind of site, or I don't know what it's called, but it looked like a ruins of some sort.
Yeah, but they get to drive right onto it.
Yeah, no problem. And then when they're trying to sleep, like Selena gets to sleep quick, and then Jim and Hannah can't sleep. Frank's on watch, and so they're like, they wake Selena up. She's about hacks Jim because she's got to sleeping with a knife. And then she's like, here, take these, and she had Valium or something. So they finally they talk in the big softy Frank to let his daughter have like half of one,
half Valium. Of a Valium, yeah,
half of one. so they can both kind of go to sleep. And then Jim has some crazy dreams there too.
While
he's sleeping.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And not only that, but it kind of like this is where you find Frank is a big lovable character, like you said. They're driving through this huge tunnel in which Jim says this. He said, "Oh, what is it?" There's a. It's one of the greatest quotes from this movie. He goes, "It's a shit idea," or something like that, or like it's
really shit idea. You know why? Because it's really obviously a shit idea.
It's like it's hilarious what he says because it's just a shit idea. But they drive through and Frank is just laughing and just like driving over and through these.
Yeah, he's like driving over cars.
Yeah, and it's a cool, fun scene. But he ends up with a flat tire, and Jim kind of gives him crap about it. But while changing this tire, all these rats come, and it's a real creepy. You're like, what is that sound? And here, oh, it's rats, and the rats are running from the infected, which they don't have much time. They get this tire on in just the nick of time, and they're off. And again, it's just and then you see some beautiful imagery. Not only just having fun in the supermarket, but having fun on the way. They're going through some ruins. They get to drive across it because who cares anymore? We can drive on these sacred territories because who cares anymore? Jim goes into a burger place. And they tell him not to. It's like an abandoned.
To get gas.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Gas, and then he's like, "We don't have cheeseburgers."
Yeah, so he
just got a bunch of food or whatever.
He goes in there and he encounters a infected boy, and this is where you see Jim kind of a dark side of Jim, where you're like, oh, maybe he could survive because. He hits this child, kicks him, like kind of puts his foot on this child's neck. And then with the baseball bat, I believe, just like, puts him out, you're like, oh, so Jim has what it takes. So that's what I was thinking anyway.
See, I didn't get that far. I was like, it's just a kid. Like Jim, if it was anybody else, Jim wouldn't have lasted. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, but again, like he didn't. A lot of these people warmed up to it. They had 28 days to warm up to where they are. He just woke up, so he's getting a crash course in this. So I feel like you're kind of seeing him evolve. Whereas Selena, Frank, all these people have evolved. Their family, they've already witnessed their family dying and all this stuff. They've killed their neighbors. They've done all these things. They're there already. Yeah. So it's just that I don't know. To me, it's a little bit different.
No, that's fair. Man, I was so mad when Frank turned. Sad and mad at the same time.
It was over a stupid accident.
And the group had to. Well, he was just pissed because nobody was there, and they were there. They were just hiding.
Yes,
I feel like the group probably felt a lot less secure with him around. And these soldiers, which we haven't talked about their intent yet, but they would have had to probably change their game plan to something entirely different to take Frank out of the picture.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they kind of waited. Maybe they were just going to shoot him and then say, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know. We thought he was infected."
Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Because they were hiding, and then like all of a sudden, when Frank's about to kill Jim, and then again, why not just let him kill Jim, and then you got the two ladies that you're looking for, after, for whatever you're trying to do. So, but yeah, it was interesting to see or to wonder what they would have done if Frank was still in the picture.
Yeah.
Have been like, oh, all right, I guess you can have her.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It would have changed the whole film. It would have been a different dynamic, and I was so sad for Hannah, and I was thinking the same thing the whole time when watching this the first time. You're obviously thinking these are men. They're like you get like you feel like okay, they're safe now, but then you also get this eerie feeling like something is off because it shows a scene of them taking that car and they're just like driving in circles. They're very playful and almost like
nonchalant.
Nonchalant.
Really blasé.
Like very like almost like kids, like teenagers or something like that.
Yeah.
The soldiers bring Jim, Selena, and Hannah to a heavily fortified mansion under the command of Major Henry West. They treat their guests to a tour and a banquet. West takes Jim and shows him Private Mailer, a soldier who had become infected several days prior. West had Mailer chained up for observation, and Jim asks West if he's learned anything. West has concluded that the infected are incapable of anything other than killing, neglecting even basic survival mechanisms like eating. West states he's now simply waiting to see how long it takes for Mailer to starve to death. However, the sanctuary promised by the soldiers turns out to be a ruse.
And it's honestly not a bad idea to trap one of them. You know what I mean? Like trap it, study it, see how long it does take for it to starve, which is not a bad, it's not a bad idea. If you think you have a monster that's just looking to eat something, you don't let it eat anything and see how long it lasts, then maybe when you can start venturing out into the society again, kind of thing. So it's not a bad idea, but the whole other part of their quest is a bit off-putting.
So you got Major Henry West here, and they are thinking. They're thinking of like, how can we start again? You know what I mean? They need hope.
Yeah.
So the group that was back in London, they needed hope, and the hope was this recording of soldiers. And here's safety and here's a cure, but there was no cure, was there?
Yeah.
West is thinking like, how long do they take to die off? When can we venture out, like you just said? But he's also thinking like, how are we going to repopulate? And we'll see here in the next paragraph, some of his men were starting to get a little antsy. They were getting the hope was dwindling. He said one put a gun in his mouth at one point. He said the only way I could talk him out of it was by promising him women and a future, because without women, men are only going to live as long as we live. You know what I mean? What's keeping, so he has to keep these guys from killing each other in amidst this crazy tight knit. And how do we do it? We gotta dangle that hope in front of them. And I feel like he does that.
Yeah. That's a good point.
To the detriment of Selena and Hannah, obviously.
Right. They're not on board with this whole thing. But yeah, I feel like it's only been maybe 28 days. So you still should be like maybe gathering food, gathering more ammo. It seems like they have a nice fort. They have they have tripwires and they're planting mines, so they have some ammo. But maybe prioritize your food and then start worrying about
food,
finding other people,
ammo, and let's find other people before we just. It's only been 1 month. It's only been 1 month. Where you don't have to. You don't have to start having. You don't have to like being with children and stuff like that, or just
right,
graping people. You know what I mean?
Right.
West reveals to Jim that his broadcast was intended to lure the female survivors into sexual slavery. Jim and Sergeant Farrell refused to go along with this scheme, so West orders them to be shot. Farrell tells Jim that he saw a plane in the sky and theorizes that it would be impossible for the infected to escape Great Britain, so the rest of the world must be uninfected and merely watching these events unfold. Farrell distracts two soldiers who shoot Farrell and then argue, allowing Jim to escape.
And you touched on it, but these dudes are trying to start a sex slavery trade, and it's only been 28 days. These guys have never been married, am I right?
I'm telling you, honey, she meant nothing to me. Nothing at all.
I mean, come on. But yeah, he gets away quick, and it looks like they've done this before, though, because where they take him to shoot him, there's a bunch of bodies already there. So it's like they've done this before. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah,
so they took Jim to shoot, when they took Jim to shoot him, it seemed like there were some scattered bodies already over.
Well, so when the infected was on the lawn, some of them came to the lawn, they came to their guns, and the lights came on, they started shooting, and then at one point, that guy who got on dude's nerves, one of the military guys who ends up, he said, "Can you dispose of the bodies, please?" So I think those were infected that they have piled up in the past. That's what I was thinking.
In this act still here, she's she understands that what these guys are doing, and then she's trying to tell Hannah like, hey, take these Valium and it's going to make you not care, or whatever. It's almost like a thing like that. It's pretty sad,
very brutal.
And she finally talks the soldiers into letting them change alone, so she can sneak her those pills or whatever. But yeah, they dress them up, and then it's raining really hard apparently too.
But Jim gets away while they're arguing. He kind of he climbs a fence and puts his shirt over a barbed wire fence, but he's still inside, correct?
He ended up climbing over and losing his shirt.
That's
he
what
hid
it was.
in the bodies at first.
Yes.
And then when they ran past him, he hopped the fence.
Yeah.
Back over there. Yeah.
Jim sees a jet contrail in the sky showing proof of Farrell's theory of outside survivors. After luring West away from the mansion with a siren and killing a soldier, he returns and frees Private Mailer to infect and kill the remaining soldiers. This is one of the best parts in the movie, I believe, Chris. Corporal Mitchell attempts to abduct Selena, but Jim kills him with such ferocity that Selena momentarily fears Jim must be infected before kissing him. Relieved, Jim tells her that she hesitated longer than a heartbeat. Oh, referring to that quote from earlier. And it doesn't talk that Hannah has a very funny moment here too while they're kissing, right?
Yeah, she comes in like smacks him with a frying pan. Or
yeah,
something.
She hits Jim and goes, "Oh, I thought you were eating her face."
She's high at this point.
Yeah, she's totally on Valium, and he goes, "I was kissing her." I want to apologize for my British accent. Hannah. Dun.
I was gonna reach out to. I was gonna like we have a few audience. We have a few things on what's it called, Spotify that tell us that we have an English audience. Please take it with a grain of salt. We love your accent.
Yeah, we love Europe.
Trying to replicate it.
I love England. I love Great Britain.
I often tell my friends that I wish we could talk like that. Like,
yes.
Pence and things like I have 20 pounds and stuff like that. Like I want to be able to talk like that.
I was just out and about, and Jim, Selena, and Hannah attempt to escape in Frank's cab, but West, who has hidden himself in the back seat, shoots Jim in the stomach. Hannah retaliates by putting the cab in reverse, allowing Mailer to pull West through the rear window and kill him, and drives off. That's a cool scene.
Yeah, I do like that last scene there where the commander gets what he's got coming to him. And this is where I got to disagree with you a little bit on Jim. Jim has only killed one zombie.
Okay.
A kid zombie.
Yes.
And now he's like freaking Rambo out there. He's like plotting, like
getting soldier
takedown of
he's
these
Batman.
7 army dudes. Yeah, pretty much. And he's like
he's lurking in the shadows.
In a highly efficient way in a place that he doesn't know. Like he's never been to this place before. And all of a sudden he's like setting up traps and crap. And he's only killed like one kid zombie. So I thought that was pretty funny when I was watching it, but it still worked. I still do like the end sequence.
I think what you were forgetting is that Jim, before his coma, was a bicycle courier. I feel like you're not taking that into account, that he was.
I forgot his background.
Do you mean Marine or no? Bicycle courier.
No. Yeah. He delivered mail or he's a door dasher.
He did turn into Batman. I mean, there for a minute. He turned into Rambo.
He did. It was a bit much.
It was. I love it though. After 28 days, another 28 days later. So yeah.
What are we, 3 months in now?
Yeah, it kills you. 2 months in. 2 months in. Another 28 days later, the 28 days later kind of like just like flashes on the screen. Jim recovers at a remote cottage in Cumbria, where the infected are shown to be weakly lying on the roads and dying of starvation, as West predicted. As a hawker hunter jet flies overhead, Jim, Selena, and Hannah unfurl a huge cloth banner spelling the word hello. Not help, but hello. The 3 survivors were waved for the jet, and the pilot spots them. Selena then asked Jim, "Do you think he saw us this time?" As he stares off.
He saw us this time.
Smiling.
She was smiling. And there you go, your ambiguous ending. We don't know what happened to these folks, but something had to it had to be good because there's a sequel, right?
That's right.
I want to say that I did see the 28 weeks later, maybe the first part of it or something. But yeah, I think I remember vaguely seeing a little bit of that.
That would be a good one to do during sequel September, man.
Ooh, I like that.
So this is a zombie movie. We're going to go ahead and say it. It's a zombie movie. They call them the infected. I know they're not eating brains. It's a zombie movie. But I feel like it's the first full-on zombie movie that we've done, unless you count Reanimator, I'm sorry.
And I wouldn't count that one because he was just trying to make someone undead, not necessarily a zombie.
Okay.
And I don't know if there was like bitings and infections.
They seem zombie-like, though. So,
Oh, sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it our first zombie movie? I know. And
I want to say it is.
VHS 2 had like a zombie short, but yeah, I think it is. I think it is. How do you feel about how do you feel? I don't know the George Romero stuff like Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead. How do you feel about those movies?
I had that on our list for a little bit, but we kind of never got to it. The original from 1968. Of course, that has a lot of political undertones and stuff like that for the time.
Yeah,
I want to say that the what was it like redone in 1990 or something like that. I've been wanting to watch those though, because you need a good zombie flick. I mean, it's definitely a horror genre for sure that has a lot of good stuff in it. Think of like Dawn of the Dead and stuff at the mall.
Yes.
Things like the original.
Dawn of the Dead was great. How about Zombieland? How about Zombieland?
Zombieland's a good one too, and I feel like that's more comedy.
But it was so well done. Yeah, that's true.
It was really well done though. But I looked at that one more as a comedy. But
what else? What else were you going to say there?
You got the Resident Evil movies, but those were I thought those were really stupid. But the original, Night of the Living Dead 2 was one that was really funny when I was a kid, because it was gosh, I remember all of them, but I want to say it was like the second one had a lot of comedic. It
was hilarious, and I remember the practical effects were so freaking good. There was like a skeleton zombie there at the end with the eyeballs and the big teeth and everything. That one was very 80s too. Very 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a good 80s flair. Yeah. And that's when I watched like growing up.
Yeah.
And it was really creeping me out, but then I was always fanatic.
Yeah.
So obviously funny. But yeah, no, this looks like it's our first zombie movie.
Which is that's surprising in 50 something episodes. That's crazy.
We've done a lot more found footage than we have anything, I think. And that's your fault.
Yeah, that is my fault. I love found footage. What's our next horror film, Chris?
So coming up, it looks like we have your choice, which is No One Will Save You from 2023.
Okay.
And then I changed mine. I think I had Night of the Living Dead on there, but since we just did zombie, I'm going to choose In a Violent Nature from 2024.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we need to jump on this pretty quick. Like you said, it wasn't just coincidence that our last podcast was 28 days ago. So it was like 28 days later, we finally get a podcast out. We've been enjoying spring break and taking our kids on vacation and stuff like that. But it was good to jump back into
putting a little more. Yeah,
it was fun to jump back this
next movie.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it.
I'm always ready for the next one.
All right, man. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, audience. We appreciate you. Make sure you're on Spotify, YouTube, and talk to us on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram where we show some snippets and stuff on there.
Do us a favor too. Leave us comments on YouTube videos of like what you want to see next. We'll definitely work in those movies.
Absolutely.
Leave comments about what you thought about it. It really helps the channel when you just hit like and leave us a comment and we'll respond. So
absolutely.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, man.